What started as a routine interview turned into television chaos when Cillian Murphy walked off Stephen Colbert's show following an explosive confrontation that has the entertainment world buzzing. The Late Show studio was buzzing with its usual pre-show energy as crew members made final adjustments to the lighting and cameras. Tonight's guest, Cillian Murphy, sat quietly in his dressing room, reviewing his notes about his latest film project. The Irish actor, known for his intense performances and private nature, had agreed to appear on Colbert's show to promote his new psychological thriller, despite his well-documented reluctance to engage in extensive publicity tours. Murphy had specifically requested that the interview focus on his craft and the film's themes rather than his personal life, a request that had been communicated clearly to Colbert's production team weeks in advance. The actor's publicist had even sent a detailed list of preferred topics and areas to avoid, emphasizing Murphy's desire to maintain his privacy while still fulfilling his promotional obligations. As the show began, Colbert delivered his monologue, with his characteristic wit and political commentary, building up the audience's energy for what was expected to be a straightforward celebrity interview. The host introduced Murphy with glowing praise for his body of work, from his breakout role in 28 Days Later to his acclaimed performance in Peaky Blinders and his Oscar-winning turn in Oppenheimer. Murphy walked onto the stage to enthusiastic applause, his demeanor professional but reserved. He settled into the guest chair with a polite smile, clearly prepared to discuss his latest project. The first few minutes proceeded smoothly as Colbert asked about the film's production and Murphy's preparation for the role, questions that the actor answered thoughtfully and with genuine enthusiasm. However, the tone began to shift when Colbert, perhaps sensing an opportunity for more engaging television, started probing into Murphy's personal methodology and his famously private lifestyle. The host made several jokes about the actor's reclusiveness, suggesting that his privacy was merely a publicity stunt designed to create mystique around his persona. Murphy's responses became noticeably shorter and more guarded, his body language indicating growing discomfort with the direction of the conversation. The tension escalated when Colbert, ignoring the agreed-upon interview parameters, began pressing Murphy about his political views and stance on various social issues. The host seemed determined to extract controversial statements or reactions that would generate headlines and social media buzz. Murphy repeatedly attempted to redirect the conversation back to his work, but Colbert persisted with increasingly personal questions about the actor's family life and his decision to raise his children away from the spotlight. What started as gentle ribbing quickly transformed into something more aggressive and confrontational. Colbert's questions became more pointed and invasive, touching on topics that Murphy had explicitly asked to avoid. The actor's discomfort was visible to the studio audience, who began to sense the shift in atmosphere as the interview took on an adversarial tone. Murphy, maintaining his composure despite the mounting pressure, attempted to address Colbert's behavior directly. He reminded the host that they had agreed to focus on his professional work and expressed his disappointment with the direction of the interview. However, instead of acknowledging the actor's concerns, Colbert doubled down, making dismissive comments about Murphy's boundaries and suggesting that celebrities who appear on talk shows should be prepared to discuss all aspects of their lives. The situation reached a breaking point when Colbert made a particularly cutting remark about Murphy's Irish heritage and his decision to maintain residences in both Ireland and London. The comment, delivered with Colbert's trademark smirk, crossed a line that transformed the already tense interview into something approaching hostility. Murphy's expression hardened, and for the first time during the interview, his famous composure began to crack. The studio audience, initially unsure how to react to the increasingly uncomfortable exchange, fell silent as they witnessed what was clearly no longer a typical celebrity interview. Camera operators continued filming, capturing every moment of the escalating confrontation. As Murphy sat forward in his chair, his jaw tightened, and his eyes fixed on Colbert with an intensity that suggested the situation was about to explode into something far more dramatic than anyone had anticipated. Murphy's voice cut through the studio's silence like a blade. "I think we need to have a conversation about respect, Stephen." His Irish accent became more pronounced as his anger simmered beneath the surface. "I came here as a professional courtesy to discuss my work, not to be mocked and belittled on national television." Colbert, seemingly oblivious to the gravity of the situation, leaned back in his chair with a condescending laugh. "Oh, come on, Cillian. This is how talk shows work. You can't expect to sit in that chair and control the narrative completely. The audience wants to know who you really are, not just some rehearsed talking points about your latest movie." The actor's hands gripped the armrests of his chair, his knuckles whitening as he struggled to maintain his composure. "What the audience deserves is honesty and authenticity, not a host who ambushes his guests for cheap entertainment. You agreed to certain parameters for this interview, and you've violated every single one of them." Colbert's expression shifted to one of mock surprise, his theatrical gestures becoming more exaggerated. "Violated? That's a strong word, don't you think? I'm just doing my job, asking the questions that people want answers to. Maybe the problem isn't with my questions, but with your inability to handle them like other celebrities do." The comparison stung, and Murphy's carefully maintained facade began to crumble. "Other celebrities? You mean the ones who come on here and play your game? Who pretend to laugh at your jokes while you systematically tear them down for your audience's amusement? I won't be part of that circus." The tension in the studio was palpable as crew members exchanged worried glances. Several production assistants had positioned themselves near the stage, unsure whether they should intervene in what was rapidly becoming a public relations nightmare. The show's producer, watching from the control room, frantically gestured to the floor manager. But the confrontation had taken on a life of its own. Colbert, rather than de-escalating the situation, seemed to relish the conflict. He turned to the audience with an exaggerated shrug. "Well, folks, it seems we have a guest who doesn't appreciate the art of conversation. Perhaps Mr. Murphy here is more comfortable with scripted dialogue than real interaction." That comment proved to be the final straw. Murphy stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor with a harsh sound that echoed through the now silent studio. "Scripted dialogue? You want to talk about scripts, Stephen? Your entire persona is a script. This manufactured outrage, this calculated provocation, it's all an act designed to generate controversy at the expense of your guest's dignity." The host's face reddened, his composure finally beginning to crack under Murphy's pointed criticism. "My show has won multiple Emmy Awards and has been praised for its intelligent discourse. If you can't handle a little pushback, maybe you should stick to acting and leave the real conversation to people who understand how it works." Murphy's laugh was bitter and sharp. "Intelligent discourse? Is that what you call deliberately ignoring your guests' boundaries and making inflammatory comments about their heritage? Your questions tonight have been nothing but cheap shots dressed up as journalism." The audience remained frozen, caught between fascination and horror as they witnessed what appeared to be a complete breakdown of professional courtesy. Some pulled out their phones to record the altercation, sensing they were witnessing a moment that would be replayed across social media within minutes. Colbert stood as well, his height advantage apparent as he loomed over his guest. "You know what, Cillian? Maybe you're right. Maybe I should ask tougher questions. Maybe I should ask why an actor who claims to value privacy continues to take roles that require extensive publicity campaigns. Seems a bit hypocritical, doesn't it?" The personal attack hit its mark, and Murphy's famous reserve finally shattered completely. His voice rose to a level that could be heard clearly throughout the studio. "Hypocritical? You want to talk about hypocrisy? You built your career on satire and supposedly holding powerful people accountable. Yet here you are, using your platform to bully someone who came here in good faith. You're everything that's wrong with celebrity culture, disguised as entertainment." The confrontation had reached a fever pitch, with both men standing and facing each other across the small table that separated them. The studio lights seemed to intensify the drama, casting harsh shadows across their faces as the argument escalated. Beyond any hope of recovery, Murphy's voice carried across the silent studio with crystalline clarity. This is exactly why intelligent actors avoid shows like this. You've turned what should be a respectful exchange into a gladiator arena for your own entertainment. I won't be your dancing monkey, Stephen. Colbert's face contorted with barely contained rage. Dancing monkey? You arrogant piece of work? Do you have any idea how many actors would kill for this platform? You come on my show, act like you're above the process, and then have the audacity to lecture me about entertainment? The Irish actor stepped back from the table, his decision crystallizing in real time. You're absolutely right about one thing. I am above this process. I'm above being ambushed and humiliated for ratings. I'm above pretending that your behavior tonight has been anything other than unprofessional and disgraceful. The studio audience gasped collectively as Murphy began removing his wireless microphone, the small gesture carrying enormous weight in the tense atmosphere. Several audience members started whispering among themselves, the sound creating a low buzz that filled the uncomfortable silence. Colbert, realizing that his guest was preparing to leave, made one final attempt to regain control of the situation. "Oh, you're leaving? How very dramatic of you. I suppose this is the part where you storm off like a prima donna because someone actually challenged you instead of kissing your feet." Murphy paused in his movements, the microphone halfway off, his lapel. When he looked up, his eyes blazed with controlled fury. "Challenged me? Stephen, you haven't challenged anything tonight except basic human decency. You've shown your audience exactly who you are beneath the clever jokes and political commentary. You're a bully with a platform, nothing more." The accusation hung in the air like a physical presence. Even Colbert seemed momentarily stunned by the directness of the attack. The host's mouth opened and closed several times before he managed to respond. "I'm a bully? That's rich coming from someone who's built a career playing violent characters and psychopaths. Maybe you're just too method and can't separate fiction from reality anymore." The personal attack on his craft proved to be Colbert's fatal mistake. Murphy's entire demeanor shifted, his professional mask finally falling away completely to reveal the full extent of his anger and disappointment. "My characters may be fictional, Stephen, but at least they're honest about what they are. You hide behind humor and claim to be enlightened while demonstrating the exact opposite. Tonight, you've shown more ugliness than any character I've ever portrayed." With that devastating final statement, Murphy finished removing his microphone and placed it carefully on the interview table. The gesture was deliberate and final, carrying more weight than any dramatic flourish could have achieved. The studio fell into absolute silence as Murphy turned away from Colbert and began walking toward the stage exit. His steps were measured and dignified, refusing to give his host the satisfaction of seeing him flee in apparent panic or anger. Colbert, desperate to salvage something from the wreckage of the interview, called after him. "That's right, walk away. Show everyone how you handle a little pressure. This is what integrity looks like, folks." Murphy stopped at the edge of the stage, his back still to Colbert and the audience. For a moment it seemed as though he might turn around for one final exchange. Instead, he simply shook his head and continued walking, leaving the host standing alone behind the interview desk. The camera operators, uncertain whether to continue filming, looked to their director for guidance. The live broadcast captured every second of Colbert's increasingly frantic attempts to regain his composure as he realized the magnitude of what had just occurred. The host turned to his stunned audience, his trademark confidence visibly shaken. "Well, that was unexpected. I guess some people just can't handle honest conversation. We'll be right back after these messages." But Murphy was already gone, having disappeared through the backstage exit while Colbert stumbled through his attempt at damage control. The Irish actor had made his point with devastating effectiveness, leaving his host to face the consequences of his behavior alone. As the show cut to commercial break, the studio buzzed with shocked conversation. Audience members immediately began sharing videos on social media, and within minutes, clips of the confrontation were spreading across the internet like wildfire. The incident would dominate entertainment news for weeks, with industry professionals and fans alike weighing in on what many considered a masterclass in maintaining dignity under pressure. Murphy's calm, measured response to provocation stood in stark contrast to Colbert's increasingly desperate attempts to justify his conduct. In the aftermath, several other actors publicly supported Murphy's stance, sharing their own experiences, with hostile interviews and inappropriate host behavior. The confrontation sparked a broader conversation about respect and professionalism in entertainment, with many calling for better standards in celebrity interviews. Colbert's ratings suffered significantly in the following weeks as viewers and advertisers responded negatively to his conduct. The host was forced to issue multiple apologies, though critics noted they focused more on defending his intentions than acknowledging the impact of his actions. Murphy, meanwhile, received widespread praise for his handling of the situation. His refusal to engage in a shouting match while still standing firm on his principles earned respect from colleagues and fans alike. The incident paradoxically elevated his public profile while reinforcing his reputation for integrity and professionalism. The confrontation became a defining moment that highlighted the importance of mutual respect in professional interactions, regardless of the entertainment value that conflict might provide. Murphy's dignified exit served as a powerful reminder that some principles are worth more than publicity.